in the title, the keywords are communication strategies. This is what interests me, is the strategies. When we talk about strategies, we talk about achieving a goal, and I'm going to talk some more about it. We're talking about tourism. That's our context. We're talking about techniques, emerging leadership techniques. We're talking about things that will be practical. So I have developed all my presentation around these things, as well as the concept of relationship. And I approach it from the broad perspective of relationships with our customers, but also with each other and our staff members. So this is my agenda. We'll start with a very short icebreaker. We'll finish with a discussion. And these are the topics that I've created to support the message. So first, when we communicate what we care about. When we do this with strategy, we're being intentional and aligned with the direction. When we're talking about tourism, we're talking about hospitality, and we're talking about experience. Desiree, I don't know if you see that we have a new participant in a wait room. Yes. When we're talking about leadership, we mean all eyes on you. And I'll explain what I mean by that. When we're talking about relationship, we're trying to understand. And when we are talking about techniques, I want to bring to your attention the idea of effective before efficient. So those are the topics that I have lined up for you. So this is me. So my personal objective with this approach is to share strategies about intention and clarity when we communicate. What's our intention? What are we trying to achieve? And how can we be clear about it? And my hope is that even after just this short hour, you will feel that you are more self-confident in your leadership role. Communication is something that we all do. So I don't profess that I'll be bringing you something you don't already know. What I do hope is to validate perhaps something that you already know, put words to it, possibly. And if there is new awareness, to develop an interest and a curiosity. So why do I feel that I can stand in front of you, as I said, and talk about communication? Is because communication is my full-time job. I teach online, I teach in person, I give city tours. That's the photo you see right there in front of you. I give city tours of Calgary, my neighbor city. And I also convert tourism content for e-learning platform. I've also worked in tourism. I've worked in tourism for 25 years. I've worked for hotels, tour operators, inbound and outbound. So this is what qualifies me to have somewhat of a credential and background to address you today, despite my doubts, my personal doubts. So here's our icebreaker. When we talk about communication, how many languages or which language do you speak? What I'm talking about is that I'm not just talking about French English here. I'm talking about we develop a different kind of language based on our hobbies and our lifestyle, our career, and we do it without even being aware of it. So if we have a hobby, we have words and terms associated to it that for the people who are not initiated, they won't know what we're talking about. My husband is a big fan of soccer, so therefore he has words about his hobby that are foreign to me. Even in our industry, like some of the acronyms in tourism, for the non-initiated, like if you think about IATA, which stands for the International Air Transport Association, or WHS for World Heritage Site, those are all part of a specific language. We also have sometimes words that, acronyms that become words. You know, UNESCO, when we talk about UNESCO, is the United Nations or Education's Scientific and Cultural Organization, but the acronym have become a word. And so basically, those are all the kind of languages that we might speak. And we might even speak what we call pet language or baby language, where we change our intonation to talk to babies or to pets. We might also have a dominant narration style. I know for myself that I speak with my hands. I'm trying to keep them down today. And I also speak with storytelling and with images. I like to communicate images between me and people that I'm in communication with. And I have so you can see some examples that I put here as a start, you know, about how we communicate. My daughter, actually, one of our daughter, she speaks with her eyes. And that's actually helping her a lot during a pandemic because her eyes are already well developed to communicate with others. That's how she speaks. I've always known that about her. I have a friend who's a geologist, and she said to me, I speak PowerPoint. That's why I wrote PowerPoint there. And that's amazing because she's in her industry. Apparently, every report is done on PowerPoint. And what she literally put that on her curriculum, at a job interview. And this was noticed. And this gave her a heads up at others because she speaks PowerPoint. And people in the industry understood what that means. So I would like to give you exactly 2 minutes and write in a chat, what kind of language do you speak? So I'll let, I don't have the chat in front of me, so I'll let Desiree keep an eye on that. And I'm keeping an eye on my clock, so I'll just turn my microphone and come back in exactly 2 minutes. Desiree, you write too, okay?
Yes, I will. We have one that says point form. Mine, I said with gestures and purpose. We have I speak with my hands and eyes. I speak tourism, academia, speak in dance, movement, and I speak in volume, typically very loud.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So this is a wonderful way to open our mind to what communication can be, all the forms of it. Now, let me bring you back to my next slide. So when we communicate, we indicate what it is that we care about. But it also tells the others what we don't care about. So awareness of this is really important. So let's see what it can look like. So if we start from the premise that what we communicate is what we care about or what we don't care about, usually by not communicating, the problem I have with this approach, as though I feel it's accurate, is that it's a little polarized. And I think that in leadership role, there is way more gray zone than care or don't care. And I think that they have to do with priorities. So the fact that you don't seem to care about a thing that you haven't communicated doesn't mean it's not something that's part of your priorities, but it might not be the top priority at the moment. So this is how I would like to bring us into a non-polarized approach. But still, when we communicate, we usually communicate what our company cares about and what we personally care about. And hopefully those two are aligned. We'll talk a lot about alignment. So what we care about or don't care about will be part of every communication. So I won't do this for every slide, but I want us to look at this and let it sink in. With everything that I say or don't say, with everything that I write or don't write, with everything that I do, with everything I don't do, with everything that I structure or don't structure, with everything I buy, with everything I don't buy, with everything I wear or don't wear, with every smile, every frown, every voice intonation, every gesture, every silence, every absence, I communicate. So that's how big of a deal it is. And that is the reason that we need to be fully aware of the best strategies to communicate so that we get to our goal. I'm all about strategies. So here, now in business, we often hear that we need to put our words into actions. I would like to present the idea that we also need to put our actions into words. We need to translate our actions into words. Sometimes as a leader, we think that particularly if our way of communicating is through gesture or actions, sometimes we'll forget to put it into words. One example, let's say you think that your team did wonderful this week and you decide to buy the best coffee for them, for the staff room. Like you go out and you buy gourmet coffee with different flavor even. That might not be necessarily understood as what it's meant, particularly for the non-coffee drinkers. So you want to inform them that this action, I am clearly stating that it is to indicate how happy I am with what happened last week. And if people will say to you, I love that, but I don't drink coffee, could you do the same with tea? That opens up a relationship and a dialogue. But actions are often forgotten to be put into words. So when we communicate, with every communication, we express some sort of intention. So with every communication, whatever the form it is, we will perhaps inform or inspire the other person. We will, in our position of leader, lead or influence and influence. And with every communication, we're trying to learn and understand. So again, in terms of awareness and being the more strategic that you can be, it's interesting to think about, what am I trying to do here? So when you're going about a message that has things like, here's the information, here are the details, here's where you'll find it, here's what we have for you, we hope you will enjoy it, we want you to be satisfied, we're informing and inspire. And each time we say, follow me, go ahead, try it, do as I say. Work will be easier when, then we're trying to lead and to influence. And of course, anything that has a back and forth will be about learning and understanding. Tell me, how did it work for you? How do you like it? And so the purpose of communication will have usually one or the three here, either to inform, influence, or understand. And in most of our communication, we will want all three. So now everything that I want to talk to you today is about intention and alignment. So what is it to strategize? When we put together a strategy, we devise a plan to reach a goal. We're being mindful, we're being purposeful. We have a goal. And so I'll get to what that goal is in a minute, but the goal actually, we could start painting a picture of it, because the goal is the what, where, and how. So it's about intention, it's about strategy. So what is it that I'm trying to achieve with this communication? Where are we going? Where is this communication taking us? And how is it aligned with our value? And this is where everything will be centralized towards our mission, vision, and values of our company and of ourselves as well. So every communication, if we're being strategic, we're going to wonder, how does this communication support our company? How does it support my values, which again, we hope are aligned with your company value? And where are we going with it? Where am I leading the other ones with this communication? What's the purpose of it? Who is it for? The audience? What is it I'm trying to accomplish? And where are we going? Again, it's the idea of the vision. And then there's also the idea of the reason that I'm asking this is, so the explanation of that often is needed to understand where we're going or what we're doing. And what happens if I don't communicate this? And or if my communication has the opposite effect. In all those examples, we communicate. So for those of you that don't have mission, vision, values, or need to update it for the new environment that we all live in, that requires emerging practices and perhaps a different vision and mission. So this is really important. If you haven't done it, or if it needs to be reviewed, is to go back to your mission, vision, values, because this will be the thread of every communication. I'll show you an example in a minute. So this is to help you. It's hard, super hard to design your mission, and it's super easy. It's both. So often you have to work quite hard at getting the right word to express it, but often you already know it inside. So, but what we're trying to come out with the mission is, what are you doing? For whom? For who? How are you doing it? And with it, which context? That's your mission. Your vision, where are you going with this? How will you know you got there, wherever that is? What will your success look like? And then your values, what are your values, belief, attitude that are going to be your priority? What kind of things would you like other people to say about you? That should be a helpful question to determine your values. So I've decided to use the example of the CDEM, because they do a fantastic job. They have a lovely, wonderful mission and vision. And I won't read them here on that slide, but you can see it's short, it's concise, every word says what it is they do and where they're going with this. And then their values, they describe the values. You can see there is collaboration, leadership, and engagement. They were very thoughtful when they decided this, I'm sure of it. And then because they went through the exercise of creating that, every one of their communication now is easier or eased because of it. So I put in red font now all the keywords that if they want to speak about their business or write about it, to talk to their staff, their colleagues, their clientele, their industry, this is what the words that they can be using all the time. So you can see every communication could have, I'm here to facilitate, I'm here to support the community, the economics of your community. I want to take a leadership role in development. Where? In Manitoba, bilingual municipalities. And where am I going? I want to be in the center of anything significant in that province. Nothing less than that. If you see it, I want to be a key player in the economic development of Manitoba's Francophonie at a province. This is a big vision. And this is measurable, and this is easy to align every communication with. Same thing with values. We can understand that the people at the CDEM support more values than just these three, but these are the first ones, the top ones. And the definition of them gives us a lot of wording, again, to integrate into any kind of communication from there on. So a good vision, mission, values will help you design every communication that is aligned with where, what, where, and how. So the context. So we're here in the tourism industry, which is mainly about experience and tangible product and about hospitality. So let's talk about what hospitality is, because you know what they say, I won't let anyone criticize my husband, but I can, or let anyone say anything about my culture, but I can, because it's mine. Well, I can say something about hospitality because I've worked in it for so long. Not everybody who works in hospitality are hospitable. So when we decide that we endorse the fact that we're working in that industry, we want to be hospitable people. But what does it mean? Hospitality means we're going to be friendly, we're going to be generous in how we receive and entertain our guests and visitors or foreigners. This is a dictionary definition. You might choose your own definition, but it's about anchoring ourselves into what it means, the industry itself in which we work. And no matter what definition you choose, hospitality is about service, and service means people. So it's a people-focused industry. It means it's interactive. It means we're going to be going back and forth between, this is what I'm trying to do, is this how you're experiencing it? So as we know, a tourism experience is often not very concrete. So many perspectives will tell us how it was received. Even when we look at a bedroom in a hotel, we'd say, well, a bedroom, it's pretty concrete, but it can be experienced very differently from different people. And again, even like that gourmet coffee that I might put in the room to my honorary guest might be interpreted differently. So I need to be very focused about understanding my audience and adapting my message. And also, is it understood the way it's meant? So if I do any action to support an experience for my tourist, is it understood the way it's meant? And is it likely to achieve the goal? And back to the mission, vision, and values. What is it that our company stands for? So when we are in hospitality and in interactive relationship of service, who am I serving? What are they value? How will I know if my message is well received? And how will I know if my message will achieve the goal? Usually it's about, tell me about your experience, is how we find out. So because it's a bit of an emerging trend more and more, we used to think that, like, a 5-star hotel spoke for itself, right? It's a little bit different now because we're dealing with travelers who have more experience in travel and who are interested in kind of co-creating this experience. So when we think about our product, we think about the in-person experience, but also the online experience of our product, the before and during and after. So it's a way bigger encompassing product, really. Same thing with our employees. The pre-employment, what were the expectations? What is their experience of working with us, the reality of it, and how are they interacting with clients to make that full circle about co-creating the experience. All of it aligned with our mission, vision, and values. So when we are in that frame of thought, when we're referring to the experience and we want feedback, we want to say things like, your contribution delights us. We value your input. Tell us about your experience. You are a vital part of our success. That can be addressed to both our clients or staff. We want your experience to exceed your expectation. What's not said there is that we need to know what your expectations are. Tell us how we did. Tell us your overall experience. Now, overall experience in our region. It's important to remember when we work in tourism that rarely are the tourists, the visitors, the guests coming to our product only. We have to place ourselves within the understanding of the big picture of the destination. Like even me as a person, even if I have friends who come and stay at my house for a few days, they are probably influenced by the fact that I live next to the mountains. So my house is one of the elements as the big picture of the destination. And think about it, because the more you understand the big picture of your clients, the more you understand your clients. So the more your communication will reflect the fact that you're aware you're part of a bigger experience, and you hope that your part is considered satisfactory to them. Hope I'm making sense. Now, when we have the emerging trend in tourism is to have collaboration and problem solving. Collaboration brings the idea of problem solving, and it brings the idea that we will welcome a variety of perspective. So when we welcome a variety of perspective, it's like lenses. We bring in different lenses, and we're more able to innovate and be creative. And it's usually starting with the word curiosity. Maybe I should have put it on the slide. Curiosity is how we can widen the perspective that we'll receive. So tell me about suggestion about how to improve my process. Do you have suggestion about how to improve services? And suggestion about how to improve profitability? All along aligning them with mission, vision, values. I don't know if you've experienced that before, but asking people sometimes for suggestion about improvement takes you way out of what you're trying to do. It's as if they suggest to reinvent your company entirely. So whenever you ask for suggestion, always anchor them into your own mission, vision, values. And you can even be even more precise and say, how do you see that your suggestion would fit in my mission or in my vision? So again, how can we improve within the context of mission, vision, values? What's your perspective? When we ask people about their perspective, we're not asking them to necessarily problem solve, but we're asking them to broaden our list of solutions, let's say. And also curiosity, again, will be the lead or the motor to ask the question of, what did you see elsewhere? Like, so if someone comes to you and the night before they stayed in another city in an Airbnb, and now they're coming to your hotel, how was it for you the night before? I don't know why I think we have a little bit of hesitation to ask our customers about other experience outside of our service. And if we're asking our staff for suggestion for improvement, it's also a good practice to suggest or to ask, how can you see yourself as part of that change for improvement? Put them in the middle of the action. So now the leadership part. Leadership means all eyes on you. And I should add all the time. We know that as a parent, we have an impact on our children, they're watching us like hawk. I know it as a tour guide, all eyes on me is definitely prevalent. And whatever leadership you hold, you will find yourself that you're being watched all the time. Hence, this workshop and the thinking about how we communicate. Because you're part of this workshop webinar, I'm assuming that you're interested in the interactive leadership. And here's a definition. When we are an interactive leader, we are a strong communicator. We act in a democratic and participative manner with our followers. So this is the angle that I'm following to present this concept of mindful communication. So mindful communication, when leaders like yourself, right with me right now, we will tend to listen. That's the understand. We will be authentic leaders. I have a definition of that coming next. We will support our vision, mission, values. Maybe I should count how many times I'm saying this in this presentation. I have 38 slides. I'm thinking a good 20. Anyhow, we communicate our goals, which is kind of the same idea, and we communicate our priorities, which again is kind of the same idea. We communicate our standards, which stem from our vision, mission, values, and we adapt to the context. We align our action with our words, and as you've learned, as you know already intuitively too, we align our words with our action. So I'm talking about authentic leaders. Let's be all on the same page about what the definition is. It's an authentic leader will consistently act with his personal values of being honest and avoiding self-deception. Because of this, the authentic leader is perceived as genuine, and it will gain the respect of followers and developing a capacity to positively influence their behaviors. So that's the authentic leadership. So it's about the company, its vision, mission, values, and it's about us as individuals. So now the relationship part of the webinar. The question is, are we all in the same boat? Like this is a bit of a cliche, you know, in a company, in a team, we're all in the same boat. But if there's one learning I've gained from the pandemic say we might all be in the same storm, but we sure aren't all in the same boat. So the pandemic has helped us realize that perspective is really important, because as individual, our experience of the storm will depend on the boat and how we view it. So with that idea, I bring the concept of learning and understanding in that relationship. So if we're not all in the same boat to work together and to achieve our goal, which boat are you on? Like, what is your perspective? What is it like for you? So because relationship is about understanding someone else, we have to think about it as ongoing. It's not because we got some answers today that we won't get more tomorrow. It's going to be a mindset. And in fact, the kind of mindset is often referred to as a growth mindset. I'll have the next slide, will have the definition of that. If it's new to you, many of you know about it. Again, all of it supporting our mission, vision, values, and all of it with the capacity and the intention to adapt the information, the back and forth. So tell me. So when we want to know, it's like we also have to understand, like, do I understand you correctly? Do we speak the same language? I'm interested. That curiosity again. Do you have suggestion? What do you think? How interesting. Do you have suggestion twice? Teach me, show me. What did you like about it the other time? I wonder if we could implement this. if we want information from others, starting a sentence with I wonder will be an interesting start. So I talk about the growth mindset. So what is a growth mindset? It's when people feel that their skills and intelligence can be improved with effort and persistence. So this is the idea of growth. They embrace, when we have a growth mindset, we embrace challenges, we persist through obstacles, we learn from criticism or feedback, and we look for inspiration in other people's success. That is growth mindset. That is exactly, basically, the approach that I've been presenting all along. Now, how do we do this? What are some of the techniques and tools? I want to bring to your attention the need to be effective before efficient. And this is because of the context of online, fast, back and forth. I'll explain myself with the following slides. So what I mean with effective versus efficient. So when we are effective, it's all about doing the right thing to obtain the right result. And when we're being efficient, and I have one too many T's in there, is all about doing something with the least amount of time and energy. Okay, so effective versus efficient, and I'll talk about it in a minute with more details. But let's see, within the context of your organization, you're communicating with your client, you're communicating with your staff, with your colleagues, collaborators, with your suppliers, with your industry, and with your neighbors. So I want to give you an example about an efficient communication with a clientele that kind of backfired. I have a cell phone and I switched from Roger Plan to Virgin Mobile. And when I look for my messages, the voice message on my phone, I hear this artificial intelligence voice that says with a very cheerful tone, to scrap this message, hit 7. Well, I'm the client of Virgin and I don't scrap message and I don't hit 7. I click 7 and I delete messages. So clearly the way that they're communicating with their clients is not a good alignment with me, with my generation perhaps, or my style of communicating. And that doesn't mean that they're not being effective if they want to a certain clientele. But as soon as I find another phone package that gives me the same as Virgin Mobile, I'll switch so that I don't have to hear the scrap this message each time. So all I'm saying is about communicating to our clientele to get the right thing to obtain the right message. So some of the example here is how do we communicate with our clientele? And we all know this, but it could be a good exercise if you're trying to develop some sort of communication plan so that you're mindful of what tools, or they're not actually cool tools, but channels that you use to communicate with each other. And then you can decide, well, I'll work on one channel instead of tackling all of it at the same time. And then you can improve your communication style or align them better with your vision, mission, and values. And the next, so let's look at some of the tools here. And so internally, we use emails a lot, even if they've been around for a long time, but we still use them a lot. We use newsletters. The CDEM uses newsletter very efficiently to communicate internally and externally. We have hybrid methods now. We have those Zoom meetings, team meetings, or in person. Many companies use intranet. We use community channels. Sometimes I know companies who communicate with their staff through Facebook. They create groups. I use a lot the Google Suite. I use a lot the Outlook Suite. And then we also use a bunch of instant messaging. We'll use Slack. I use Slack. I love Slack. There are others. For time management, I use Toggle, and I share with others how much time I spend on things. And for project, there's such companies as Trello, Monday. I don't use them. I don't know them, but there's many others. Those internal tools is often when we're now looking at efficiency. So we're looking at being efficient, being fast, the least amount of time and energy to achieve our goal. One thing I need to warn you about is the fact that some of those productivity apps, they might actually be more distractive than we expect and therefore be less productive. We have to be careful about this. So imagine that your task is to edit a newsletter. Okay, you're there, you're focused, you're concentrating on editing, writing that newsletter. And then you hear a bing. And now you're looking at your app on your phone. You have a to-do list app, and it just beeped for you. So now you're gonna lose your focus that was editing that newsletter to look at your phone. And because you're now refocusing on your phone, there might be other little apps that popped up, and then your brain is there now, no longer. So there is energy that is required to refocus. And we know this intuitively. Some people are faster at focusing than others, but just keep that in mind, that the research are clear that when we switch gear and bounce back and forth between tasks, we are less able to focus our attention to a complex task, therefore less efficient and more likely to make mistakes. So we have to be clear and mindful when we choose efficient tools or when we aim at efficiency with our tools. So we are approaching now that 45 minutes. I'm at the end of my presentation. I would like to ask you another 2 minutes here to write in the chat the tools that you use for efficiency right now. What do you use to communicate with clients or colleagues or others? So I'm taking note of the time, and I'm gonna let Desiree do the honor of the discussion. So 2 minutes.
We have through phone, email, website, through social media, different Google apps, Hangout, Chat, Google Calendar, Facebook, Instagram, Canva.
We're not short on tools to communicate, are we? In person, MailChimp, yeah.
MailChimp, social media again.
Fairs, oh, very good, yes. Mm-hmm. When my husband and I had a inbound tour operation company, we communicated with our clients a lot through trade shows. The phone. Thank you for adding the phone. I didn't even put it there.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, of course. The phone. How about coffee? Don't we communicate with coffee? Let's go for coffee. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is the end of my presentation. So what would be one thing that you will put into action today in order to communicate more strategically? One thing. And again, if you could just chat, put it in the chat. And if you're not sure, what about one thing you'd like to explore or pay attention in your communication following all that was brought to your attention today? Because again, the objectives for me were to share strategies. And in my intention, in my world, the strategies are applicable. They're not just theory about bringing in intention and clarity. Oh, I hope that some of you wrote that they will rework their vision, mission, and values. Perhaps. And then I'm hoping that somehow this topic and the way I presented it has assisted you in building confidence in leadership role and in communication, because as John Powell says, communication works for those who work at it. It's an ongoing work. And this is the end of my talk. You can continue the conversation with me by sending me an email if you want, but I will stop the sharing of my screen, and we have exactly 10 minutes left to talk about this. So, let me hear you. Jocelyn has to run. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you for joining us. Any comments? I did not see all of the discussion. Was there more, Desiree, that I should know about?
No, I think we covered them all. I didn't see any questions come up throughout the presentation. So